You just pressed the button while I was texting. Hello, everyone.
That's because we're starting on time tonight.
I know, but oh my gosh. Hi, I'm Sharindria Robinson.
I'm Marcus Robinson, and we are starting on time tonight.
Oh my gosh. And we want to welcome you to another episode of Faith, Family, and Finance. Mm-hmm. First of all, I just need to say, I can't believe it's March 1st. That's all. That's all. I just want to put that out there for whatever it's worth, whoever's listening. We ask that you engage us on our Robinson Coaches page. Mm-hmm. And y'all, we're trying to do a whole lot of different stuff over here. So engage us, talk to us, let us know what's working, let us know if you can see us, you can hear us, all these wonderful things. I think Marcus usually will share it. No, you don't need that now. Okay. Marcus will share it on his page, but then we'll make sure we tell the people as you're sharing it to come to this platform. We're finding that we can do
so much more.
A lot more, engage differently and do a lot more from this platform than doing it from our personal pages. We've been coming live to you from our personal pages, from my personal page for so long now.
A year
It's
and a
been
half.
a while. It's been a while, and it's just taken us some time to get over here, even though we knew it was necessary. So thank you again for tuning in, and we ask you to like, we ask you to share. We also ask you to go a step further and type the name of somebody that you know in the comment bar who needs to be watching this broadcast. But again, if you are watching this broadcast and you are on either one of our personal pages, we ask that you come on over to the Robinson Coaches page on Facebook and check us out here. We have a very interesting topic that we're going to talk about tonight. The thing that's getting me with this one is also just, this platform is seeing, and this setup that we have, is just seeing who's actually on and who's actually watching us. So it's difficult. So even if you're watching, I'm asking you tonight, until we get used to this platform, please type your name. And I'll look down and try to find your name when you type it in the comment bar. So I'm asking you to please type your name in the comment bar. I'm asking you to type your comments. Marcus, oh yeah, there we go. He's figuring it out now.
I'm getting there.
See, we're getting there. We're learning. Learning is fun. Learning and growing together. But please type your name in the comment bar. Also, if you want to let us know, if you want to rep your generation, we're going to talk about tonight debt across the generations. So if you want to type your name and either type Gen X or Boomer or Millennial or whatever category you find yourself in, that would be great also and helpful to lend to the conversation so we can know who's watching.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You got it all posted. You send everything everywhere.
We're going to see.
Oh my
We're going to know shortly.
Okay. I guess I should share it as well. Huh?
Absolutely, since you have the book. Oh, you talking about share the... Oh, well, yeah, you can do that.
Oh, carry on, Marcus. We're ready.
Sure. Anyway, we are talking about debt across the generations. Mm-hmm. The generations that we'll talk about, because it's a lot of generations, the generation we talk about would be the baby boomers, mm-hmm. Gen X, mm-hmm. and the millennials. It's amazing how they just leave Gen Y out. We don't even know where they fit in.
We do, but this article is not focusing on them.
Yeah, so. It's like there's a huge gap. But at any rate, the baby boomers, Gen X, and the millennials. Mm-hmm. And what we're talking about is the perspective that these three groups have. Mm-hmm. Now, which magazine are we referencing tonight?
Oh, you're very good at buying all these publications. So you like buying books and magazines and that fit our lifestyle. So this magazine is called The Debt Cure.
Absolutely.
The Debt Cure, and it's the 2020 edition of the Debt Cure. So that's our reference. That's our reference for tonight. Plus, coupled with our own personal experiences, and as we say every time, or need to say every time, that we're not certified financial planners, financial advisors. We're just two people who are taking our own life experience, coupled with our family and friends' experiences, and we come and we just have this conversation with you on Sundays, like kitchen table conversations. So.
Yep, and you forgot to mention the fact that I'm a millennial and you are a baby boomer. No? God. Too soon?
Jesus.
Sorry.
Hey, Catrell, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in from the Robinson Coaches page. We appreciate that. And the rest of you who are watching from the Robinson Coaches page, we're able to see your notifications. So we ask that you make sure you let us know your name and where you're from. All right. So Mark is going to start us off. We're going to look at generations, debt by the generations. And as he mentioned, we're going to start with the baby boomers.
Now, it's amazing that I'm going to start, but you have the book. All right. Anyway, so from what I remember reading, the baby boomers, see, this is why I need a book. Jesus.
This is real, y'all. Pray for me. I promise this is real.
Yeah. Anyway, the baby boomers, as they have it, are individuals that are in their mid-50s to their early 70s. And it addresses how they looked at debt. This is all about perspective, right? So it's about how they looked at debt. They look at debt as something that helps to enhance their lifestyle. So they were oftentimes the first to go to college, the first to get that quote-unquote good job. And so as a result, they decided to take on debt as a part of their lifestyle. They got a decent job. They got good jobs. They were able to retire in some cases. However, one of the bigger challenges that they have is debt with houses. They got bigger houses, they got better looking cars, and they tend to pay for them longer. But for whatever reason, they don't seem, this is not a big deal to them.
Right. Well, there are a couple of things. I don't need that. Thank you.
Oh,
there are a couple of
excuse
things.
Me.
There are
That's
a couple
good,
of
Warren.
things. Hey, Warren. It's, yeah, pray for me because your brother. Oh, Jesus. There are a couple of things with the baby boomers, as you alluded to, but going a little bit deeper into it. If you think back to when, well, not my parents, because my mom was a non-traditional college student, but if you think back to when your parents went to college, you should have asked Mom to join us on here so she could have weighed in on this.
They watching the movie.
They're watching the movie? Okay.
Yeah, she had popcorn and everything.
Okay. When you think about when they went to college, the cost of college attendance was cheap.
Low.
It was very low. When I talk to baby boomers, that's one of the biggest things that they bring up. The biggest comparison between my generation, their generation, is that if they went to college was so cheap. And I mean, cheap is relative.
Affordable.
I get it. But let me put it this way. They didn't leave college with the amount of student loan debt that the Gen Xers left college with.
Right.
And during that time, more so than now. Hey, Mom and Pop Brown, thanks for tuning in. And when they went to college, more so than now, if they decided to go to college, they were able to find a job in their field that benefited from, and so it made attending college seem like it was a good thing to do. Right. If that makes sense. So they went to college to be a teacher, and they got a job to become a teacher. They went to college to be a banker, they got a job as a banker. I mean, it didn't always happen like that, but 9 times out of 10, went to school to be a preacher, got a job being a preacher. That's the way it worked. Did not work that way by the time we came along, and especially those who are at the top end of Generation X, who are closest to that baby boomer. You find yourself then to kind of compete and trying to do some of those same things. But now, even in just short period of time, the cost of college just kind of skyrocketed.
Let me interrupt you. One thing that my dad brought up a couple of weeks ago as it relates to student loans, because he mentioned to me he had a student loan.
Huh.
And I thought it was my first time hearing it. But the thing is, he said it was calculated differently. They didn't let them over borrow. Mm-hmm. And basically, they gave you a time frame to pay it off. So it's not like you have 25 and 28 years of paying for education. That pretty much is obsolete.
Okay.
You know, and that's the biggest, like you kind of said, that is a big difference. Because I mean, think about this now. If you get $100,000 in student loan debt and you're paying for it 20 or 30 years, at what point was your education obsolete?
Anybody got an answer? I don't have an
Guarantee
answer.
you it's not. It was before 28 years.
Right. I don't have an answer. I understand.
So then you have to say, now, how good of an investment is this really?
Right. Because even as an educator, if you think if I'm a teacher, let's just take a teacher. We know a couple of teachers who have a PhD, and let's say you got loans to get that terminal degree, and you didn't have like fellowships or scholarships or anything like that. So you go to school, you get them the debt to become a teacher, and current day you can retire. Some of our educators on here after 20 years. Is that right? You can work for 20 years as an educator and retire. Is it, or 30 years? Is it 20 years?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Okay.
I
In
didn't
some
make it that
instances,
long.
you can work for 20 years and retire in some professions. So let's say you put in your 20 years, even if you're 30 years.
Mhm.
If you put in 20 years, but your student loan debt is set up for 30 years. That's where you were going, right?
Right.
So your student loan debt is 30 years.
Oh,
You got a 30-year repayment on a student loan. We're not even talking about a house. 30-year repayment on a student loan. And then you retire from teaching in 20 years. How do you continue to pay back that money? It's 30 for me. Somebody said it's 30 for them. Okay, teaching, it's going to be 30 years from there. But even if you're teaching for 30 years and you got 30 years worth of student loan debt because you want to climb the ranks in administration.
Right.
How does that just
There's a
doesn't even
balance.
seem to work. But anyway, so that was the difference though with the baby boomers. And there are baby boomers on here. I know y'all are watching, so come on and chime in. For the baby boomers that are on here, I know some of you are probably saying, but y'all talking faster than I can type. We will slow down. We will slow down. And that's not, I'm not throwing shade. I'm just saying. Because they always say I'm doing that, and I really don't.
But you don't realize you talk really fast. We enjoy what you say, but you talk really, really fast. I'm just accustomed to it.
We'll slow down. All right, everybody got that? Let me slow down. I will. But I am so passionate about what it is that I talk about, and so it just kind of comes out fast. But anyway, so you go back to your baby boomers.
Mm-hmm.
They're baby boomers. You know, we don't want to just get hung up on the student loan debt, because a lot of people just didn't go to school. They didn't go to college, so they don't have to worry about student loan debt. Praise the Lord. But even when it comes down to your houses and your cars, and this is what the article alluded to. The article alluded to the cars and the houses. People found themselves, maybe because of their education, maybe not, wanting to have bigger houses, wanting to have bigger cars.
Yeah.
And that's just what they did. More baby boomers, though, now are still paying on their house. I think they're paying on their houses still into their 60s and late 60s,
Mm-hmm.
whereas their parents didn't have a house payment at that age. But the thing that article doesn't talk about, and what we have to bring to light, is that probably, especially, I can only speak for the African American community. In the African American community, maybe we participated in building our houses.
Yes.
Yeah,
Certainly.
so I think we participated more in building the homes that we lived in, like my
Physically.
grandparents. Yeah, physically building the homes.
Right.
If I think about, if we think about our grandparents, or it was a house that was passed down, and so there was no mortgage on it, versus by the time it got to our parents, they were purchasing houses. They were there were mortgages, and the mortgages were beginning to be shaped differently. And then you introduce these things where you can refinance your mortgage, and you can introduce reverse mortgage, and don't get us into all those things. But there are just so many options that comes with the mortgages. As at some point when those baby boomers were where we are now, like I remember when the baby boomers were where we are, like in our 40s. I remember like being not necessarily a kid, but maybe early college student, and reading and hearing about like that generation of people who were taking care of their children, and having taken care of their family, taking care of their parents, and they call it the sandwich generation. But it only takes, you just keep living, and then you feel like you become that generation. Luckily for us, we're not at the stage where we have to take care of our parents, but there are some people who are in our age group. They physically have to take care, and financially have to take care of their parents, and take care of their children. Like, that's a very difficult place. And how do you plan for that? Like, how do you plan for that financially? How do you plan to? You don't. I mean, typically we don't plan to have to financially support. But I know someone who literally, with her salary, she sends money to her mother and her father to help them with their living expenses, and she has to take care of her her family.
one thing that's interesting is like every situation is different. Um, I think being in a rural setting is different from being in an urban setting. But the crazy thing is, like with my grandparents, they worked at a mill, and the way the mills operated in South Carolina, a lot of South Carolina, whoever owned the mill also built the housing,
Gotcha.
and they did lease with option to buy. And so that's how my grandparents got their house. And so, they didn't pay long for it. It was a number. They worked toward it, and in a few years, it was a done deal. And they raised a bunch of kids in that house. Now, what's interesting when it comes to my parents' generation, I don't know how you would even. They had to get something else because there was a lot of kids back then. But what's interesting to me is how the priorities changed. My grandparents were really, really of age. They were born, 1911, 1910. So you're looking at things like the Depression, that they lived through. So it's kind of like their priorities were feeding children, just living, surviving. By the time you get to the baby boomers, a lot of them are going to college for the first time or going to the military. They're doing whatever they're doing, but it's not just surviving. They're getting good jobs for the first time. They're college graduates. There's something that goes with that, right? Then by the time it gets to our generation, we're trying to stand on their shoulders. That's what they say for us, right? We stand on their shoulders and do whatever to the next level. And so they want us to think higher. And when you think higher, you tend to want more. Problem is, when you go to school sometimes, you don't have a salary to support what you see. And so what I'm noticing, even with this article, is every generation has a different priority in how they think. And it's influencing this debt piece.
Right. So, like, student loan is not as much of a concern, is not nearly a concern for the baby boomers as it is for Generation X. But as Marcus said,
because everybody we know,
right? Not almost, yeah, almost everybody we know, yeah. But the mortgage may be, and according to the article, and not just the article, just people we know, people you know, that many people who are also still in that baby boomer category, they may be still carrying a mortgage, and I think that's the biggest thing, the fact that they are still carrying the mortgage, and they probably will carry it until they die, and they don't care.
Well, what's interesting, doesn't that also influence the fact that you have this generation working longer too?
Oh, well, yeah.
So we got
because you have to pay the mortgage, so you have to keep working.
They're not retired, in many cases.
Some are. So if you're on and you're a baby boomer and you're retired or you're looking to retire, you're almost retired, you're watching the replay, come on, type in, give us some insight, share. I don't think everybody who's watching is in the same age category, but give us some insight. Let us hear your perspective. As I was always say, the show is as great as you help us to make it. So we love to see your insight and love to hear your input. We also ask you to share this with other people or just type their name in the comment bar. I think that still works the same way, right?
It does.
This, I don't know. I know on the personal platform, it works. And are people replying or commenting on our personal pages? I know you're trying to work multiple things over here as opposed to on this platform. But those of you who are on the Robinson Coaches platform, we do thank you. We appreciate it. I'm trying to talk slower, so if I have a lot of pauses, that's why I'm really trying to slow down, be more cognizant of this. But there are a lot of baby boomers who do watch our broadcast. They come up to us all the time and say things to us. Most of the time, though, like they do tell us, I don't comment, I don't say anything, but I'm watching, I'm looking. So if you're watching, send us a text message or something, or inbox us, or give us some insight. If you don't necessarily want to type your comments on the live. So we talked about the baby boomers. We want to talk or mention a little bit about Gen Xers. That's definitely where we find ourselves. Yeah. And some of you may find yourself, who are watching, may find yourself in this category as well. So we are the people who student loan companies started changing the game. They started changing the game, and they started changing it something seriously, because now our parents, some of them have gone to college, and this is what you're pushing. You're being told. I mean, you're being told, and you're being sold hard. Go to college, get a good job. Go to college, get a good job. Like the two just went hand in hand. Not true. We all know that to be true. I know so many people who didn't go to college and living amazing lives, doing wonderful things. So, um, but that's the lie we were sold, and we did it. And some of us, like myself, got into student loan debt. Some, like Marcus, you didn't get into any student loan debt. But student loan debt, by and large, is the debt that consumes the Gen X.
Yeah.
That is the debt that has Generation X in the chokehold.
That's the conversation. You know, when I talk to a lot of our peers, that is the conversation. People go to work so they can pay off student loans.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I remember there was a time I was just like, if I can just pay this off, like I just want to pay mine off. Now it's like out of sight, out of mind. I don't even think about it anymore. I remember thinking like my student loan debt was so astronomical and it consumed every thought. And I also remember 20 years ago knowing somebody in their 20s. I mean, when I was in my 20s, 20 years ago, I was in my 20s. When I was in my 20s, be quiet. And I knew somebody who was in their 40s. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like they're like grown with a wife and children, and they are like still paying student loan debt. And I remember being in my 20s thinking, what is wrong with them? Like, how did they not get it right? And now I'm like, oh, I'm still paying student loan debt. But it's almost clear in the name of Jesus. It really is. And there was a time, there were several opportunities that I had to eliminate the debt. And I chose not to eliminate the debt. Because the debt it looks different than other debt. And so when there were opportunities, it was about, no, let's cut credit card debt. Let's cut car payments. So let's cut something else. And if I have to leave a debt, I've always opted to just leave it there. Now, I just set it up on automatic payment. I don't even look at it. I don't know what I owe. I know it's not a lot. I know it's coming down, and I just let it automatically draft and call it a day. But there's more to our debt woes than student loans. So what are some of the other woes? Because again, other people like yourself, not everybody who's a Gen Xer has student loan debt.
Well, this article references cars and houses. You know, so it's not necessarily, you're right, about student loans, but you have, cars, houses, and aging parents. That's what's referenced here. But what's interesting for our generation, we have more options, but in having more options, our education doesn't educate us on the options that we have.
Okay, break that down for the people.
So, for instance, we have more degrees than a thermometer.
Okay.
Yet we don't understand finance, right?
Well,
because if you understood finance, there's no way you would want to finance a piece of paper for 30 years that doesn't pay you for 30 years.
okay.
You're not going to have the same job for 30 years. But it's one of those things when you start to understand financial education, you start to have different types of conversations. Those that have to do with investments, those that have to do with retirement, those that have to do with legacy and wealth planning, right? And so in order to have any of those conversations, you've got to take time to educate yourself on how things work financially. And we have classes on everything under the sun when we get our degrees except financial education.
Well, and this is what I heard someone else say this at the Black Wealth Summit. We attended the Black Wealth Summit last year in Greenville, South Carolina. It's coming again soon to Atlanta the week of March 13th through 14th, that weekend, and in Spartanburg, South Carolina, the week of April 4th and 5th, that weekend.
There you go.
First weekend.
You got it.
And I remember last year when we were at the Wealth Summit, that this gentleman was doing a presentation, and he didn't go to college. He was a military guy, and Belle brought this to my memory by just chiming in and saying hello. But he was a military guy, and he talked about how people will go to school, take out a loan to go to school to invest in an education that may never lead to anything, but they won't go and take out a loan to invest in themselves. If that makes sense. Like they won't, excuse me, go and take out a loan to figure out like how can I start a business or how to get my business started. Now, let me just put this out here. It is easier for you to get a student loan than it is for you to get a business loan.
Imagine that.
Right. So even though he was saying, I was like, yes, you are exactly right. Like, that is so true. Why don't we do that? Why don't we gamble on ourselves? Why don't we take this money and go and start something great, whatever it is that we dreamed of, or go and just study, not necessarily to get a degree, but to learn a trade or figure out how to start a restaurant or a food truck or a child care center or something. Like, why don't we take out money to fund our business when we get ready to start a business? We're generally looking for a grant or looking for some type of a handout, as opposed to saying, hey, invest in me, or asking investors to invest in you because you believe that what you're getting ready to put out is just that good and it's going to make you work just as hard, if not harder, than you're working to get this college degree. Don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking college or degrees, but we won't take out money to invest in ourselves.
What was interesting, I heard a quote a couple of days ago about how entrepreneurs will work 80 hours just so they don't have to work that 40 hour.
Wait, say it again. Yeah. I got it.
How entrepreneurs in many cases will work 80 hours so that they don't have to work that 40 hour. Translation, we work harder for ourselves than we will for somebody else.
Let me tell you, that is so true. I'm going to tell you, that is so true. I don't even want to get to talking about people who work because I had a friend that went somewhere. I know I shouldn't do this. And she went and she was like, it was a particular industry she went to work for. And what she realized is that she was like, these people really don't work. Like, they go to a place every day, but they don't really work. They do just enough. And I mean, come on, think about it. I mean, even if you think about it, you're on your job, it's just like, child, let me just do good, just enough to get by. Because most of us are not going to go into professions or have jobs that are like commission based. You know, most of us in America, we're salary jobs, and it's just like I can go here and I can do the least amount as possible and just get my check and go home. And that's the mentality that we have. But I'm telling you, when you are having to do it, if the Bible way, if you will, the don't work, don't eat kind of thing, like, and I don't, no, I'm not doing. Stop, because I'm not intending it the way you reacted. But if I literally don't go out here and work and try to do whatever, and that's my choice, I realize that's my choice, but I really don't eat. If I don't do it, I'll eat, because you always have me covered. But I'll eat. One of the things my mom chimed in and said, and this happens a lot, she says, I thought I was making an investment in myself, by going to school. Because, again, you are told that. She said, I thought I was making an investment in myself. I got the student loan. And I think I said this earlier. My mother was a non-traditional student, so I was out of college. My youngest brother, who's 10 years younger than me, so he was a senior in high school when my mom decided to go to college. And you take out that loan and you do think, hey, I'm investing in myself and this is all the money that I need. Well, what happens when, as she put it, the student loan company keeps selling your loan to somebody else? Oh.
Kind of like how they do with houses.
Oh.
When you get that mortgage through that mortgage broker, they broker your deal, and next thing you know, they're selling. You'll get a notice in the mail saying that your loan has been sold. Your numbers don't change, but your loan has been sold. Suggests a whole other type of business going on behind your back, right?
It's a different business, and sometimes things do change. Whether the structure or the payment, they'll tell you that it doesn't change, but sometimes it does. It's a little deception that's going on there. And so thank you, everyone. We still have one more generation to go, but we thank you just for your engaging. We thank you for your comments, your input. Like I said, the show would be nothing without you, so thank you for engaging. Tag a friend, tell a friend to check us out on the Robinson Coaches page. We're definitely going to do our best to continue to bring you quality content and conversation on this page. I am, because I want to talk so fast. But to bring you, talk about the things that you want to talk about. We've had some people to say, tell us when things are not relevant to you, or some things that you would love us to talk about. We'd love to engage and talk about some of those things. But tonight we've already talked about the baby boomers and what debt looks like for baby boomers. We talked about what debt looks like for Gen Xers. What else do we have for Gen Xers? I want to talk about. I want to bring up with Gen Xers, and this will go for any generation actually. And the article says nothing about this, but medical debt. And so for me, being a relatively healthy individual, I never, like, medical debt is nothing none of us we can plan for. Like, we cannot plan for. But when you start talking family planning, we did try to plan for medical debt. And the way we tried to do that is we tried to make sure we had the best insurance possible to cover delivery and hospital stays and all these types of things. So I recall, like, tirelessly researching insurance companies and what's the best insurance company if we wanted to start a family. But
we paid for it.
Yeah, we did. Insurance, that's another whole conversation, talk about the cost of health insurance. But you can't plan for unexpected health situations. I'll just put it that way. There's no way that you can plan for any of that stuff. Right. And so a debt that I find myself, again, it's almost like that student loan that I don't really care about, but I just put on automatic payment, is those doggone medical and hospital debt. I would never have imagined. And so we can't predict the future. We don't know what's going to happen. And I know we're always talking about that rainy day fund and saving for a rainy day and having 3 to 6 months of expenses, now 9 months of expenses put away. You gotta have that money put away for, like, medical stuff, because you just never know what's going to happen.
And what's interesting is when you start talking about family planning, isn't it interesting how they attach everything to the mother? Whether it's good, right, wrong, or indifferent, that's how
you said that. Yeah,
that's how it happened. And I don't know if it's because of this whole absentee father syndrome or what, but I do know that the boys' medical bills oftentimes come in your name and their name, right?
Everything comes in my name. Yeah.
So it's just one of those things.
Nothing. So all the medical debt that we have, like, in this, it is funny because, that's why I'm like, anyway. But yeah, none of that stuff is on your credit report. None of that stuff is anywhere. Like, it is on mine as, just as a continuous bill that you're constantly paying. And I'm like, wait, I'm under heavy anesthesia. He could be the one filling out the paperwork, but it's still my name, my social security number.
I did fill out the paperwork.
You did fill out the paperwork, but it's still all the medical debt is in my name. Speaking of which, we need to up that weekly transfer. I've mentioned this before.
So, let's see what Mom says. She says she would suggest people build business and train their children to work in their business. And Sherman Burnett says rate of return on college is high, especially if your degree doesn't equal career.
Right. Like, i.e., for example, the engineering career, or your engineering degree, or your nursing degree. You can keep going.
Yeah. Get a specific degree and or a trade. 90% of things I've learned in business was after college.
Yeah, it's true.
I thought he meant low. I was like, yeah, but you're right. I mean, basically, this is not the time to get general ed degrees.
Well, someone said it. I don't know where I was, but someone said it, and I alluded to this to a gentleman at church last Sunday. I don't think they're watching today, but I alluded to this last Sunday. Like, if you have something that you can do with your hands,
oh man,
if you can do something with your hands, I'm telling you, this is what we have to start teaching our children. Like, forget about. I'm not going to say forget about college. I'm not going to say that, but you got to be able to. We can't say that. We have to be able to use your hands. Though. Yeah. What kind of skill? Because these people are coming out with degrees, and they are not giving job. They are not. They are not getting jobs
Yeah.
in their degree field. And you talked about that earlier, but I have and then there are certain degrees people are just not going in. Had someone tell me this past week that they had to work a recruitment fair for educators, recruitment fair in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
180 people showed up.
Wow.
Where there used to be thousands
This
of
is a
people.
statewide thing?
There's thousands of people. I don't know, but there used to be thousands of people, and 180 people showed up for this showed up. Excuse me, for this event.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
Horrible numbers.
That's crazy. I know we got a couple of educators that are on here.
Yep, they're starting now.
we got a
What's up,
couple
Cedric?
of we got a couple of educators that are out here. But I mean, learn how to use your hands. Find a skill. Find something that you can do so that you'll be able to work for a while. And when I can't use my degree, I guess we don't. Our degrees, I guess they taught us maybe how to think critically, but we're not working in those fields. But your student loan is going to be higher if you go and you say I'm going to be a nurse, and I'm going to be a nurse manager, or I'm going to go and I'm going to be a doctor or an engineer. But you will probably get a better rate, more for your money, if you will, having those types of loan debts than just going to say, oh, I'm no shade here, but I'm going to school and I'm going to get a degree in business.
History.
No, I'm serious though.
Yeah.
Or business, or even counseling.
Biology.
You don't. What are we going to do with that? I feel like I'm getting in trouble, and because I'm not looking at any particular degrees, but we have to learn how to do something with our hands, even if it's nails. You know how much these nails cost? We talked about that.
We talked about that a while
We
back.
talked about that. I mean,
Cedric says
Cedric.
there has been a
Audrey.
paradigm with, I guess, paradigm shift with degrees. Technical school is the new bachelor.
All day, every day.
It really is.
You have to go.
It really is.
You have to go.
Mm-hmm. And there's something to be said about going away to school. I mean, especially if you've been a place certain time, you need a new experience, you need exposure. Exposure is huge. So I don't want to minimize the exposure that you get in college. However, we do want people to understand that you might want to be specific in terms of the degree and training that you get, because there is something that happens after college. You will have expenses that you have to pay for. And so you want to be able to pay for them comfortably, that you create, right? So it's one of those things, college, and I guess we keep needing to say this, college is not a bad thing. We both went to college. It was a great experience. However, I do agree with my mother-in-law in that we definitely need to be training our children to, one, have a skill, and two, be a business owner. There's so many tax advantages to being a business owner. And the other thing is, being a business owner will allow you to withstand all the fluctuations in the national economy. So, for instance, this is an election season and everybody's concerned with who's going to be where in this White House or wherever else. Right. Well, if you're a business owner, at the end of the day, you're going to follow the money. Whoever's in the White House, okay? If it's a Democratic situation, if it's a Republican situation, at the end of the day, we're going to follow the money because the contracts will change, right? The money will be dispersed somewhere else. So for us as business owners, our job is to find the money. So when you work for someone else, it's not as easy because somebody else, whoever your boss is, they're finding the money, which may or may not include you. And so when people get afraid of political changes, it's because they don't know where they fit in that. Somebody's making that decision for them.
Right. And Sherman is saying, he's saying no business degree. I forgot, my own brother. You have a business degree, Sherman? Oh, I'm sorry.
It's helping you.
It is. You have multiple businesses.
It's
like, hey,
you.
Your business degree is really working for you. So, I think you made
top realtor in the Southeast.
Right.
If you're not, I'm claiming it for you.
I think you made a good move. I think you made a good move with that business degree. Let's jump to the millennials because we don't have much longer. We try to finish these things earlier.
Absolutely. Last thing was what? You about to blame me for something?
Just carry on.
I'll tell you. Last thing with Generation X. I don't think we said this. We didn't identify what that age group is. Late 30s through early 50s. We tend to have the highest debt load of any generation. And I wonder if that's because we're the sandwich generation at this point. in many cases.
Well, yeah, because a lot of well, no, it's probably because a lot of the millennials they may not have debt as of yet in their early 20s. They may not have debt because they're much larger than us, but they won't. They may not have that debt.
So there's a group of millennials that don't have, they've not
Maybe,
calculated their debt.
yeah,
Perhaps.
maybe, perhaps.
Okay, well, let's talk about the millennials.
All right, let's talk about them.
What you got for them?
You're just happy. You're the happy children, the happy people, the happy adults, the happy, carefree. Life is good. I want to follow my passion. I don't care. I'm going to do what I love. I'm going to get in debt. I don't care about this debt. I'm going to do whatever it is I want to do. I'm going to live my life. I'm not making this up. This is really what the article's saying. Like, he's looking at it. It's really what the article, it's really what the article is saying. But I'm not finished. Yeah.
No, you're not finished.
Yeah, but it really is. When I read it, I was
finishing
like,
them though right now.
No, but when I read it, I was like, really? They're writing this like this?
Yeah.
But it really is. The concern is just not as great. Bottom line, yes, there will be some debt. You'll probably end up being in more debt than any of the other generations. You're not there right now, but according to the article, it's definitely a place that you're climbing to. You don't really trust a lot of banks. Is that right? You don't trust banks?
Yeah. This article is saying that millennials mistrust banks.
Mm-hmm.
But in spite of that, they've not abandoned taking out loans.
Right.
So, they want to drive the best now. They want to live the best now. They want to live in the best areas, the best neighborhoods now, which costs more money. Right. They don't have yet.
But some do. According to the article, some do. Some are able to come out of school getting high-paying jobs, but some of them also are competing with even the baby boomers. You talked about this within the company about 4 generations being in the workplace and having to struggle. The 65-year-old is competing for the same job that the 25-year-olds were. I just got finished doing a series of interviews for a company, and there were literally, actually, one of the oldest applicants was, I want to say she probably was 70. But there were also people who were 23 and 25. Wow.
That's a gap.
Yeah. And I'm like, it's just really interesting when you're looking at this skill set, and they both bring different things to the table. And me, I like multi-generational workplaces, and so I'm like, I'm picking cherries. Yep, pick that one and pick that one and pick that one, like from across the pool. Yeah. And I think it makes for a stronger workplace, but a lot of people don't buy into that. But
I believe we're not gonna have a choice at this point. I mean, we're gonna have to have a diverse workplace. We both hire people, and what I noticed is the thing I like about the baby boomer generation is they have a certain stick-to-itiveness. They will work until they will just work. I mean, in a lot of cases. Now, we not gonna, the quality sometimes.
Let's not.
It can be whatever.
Yeah.
I don't told you about getting. I don't care about getting in trouble.
I'm saying like generalizing. It's just very general statements.
Well, they're mine.
They're yours.
So the thing is, So you got people. See how she made me lose my train of thought. This is Caleb. For those of you who don't know our children, this is why.
Go ahead. Okay.
You're not even a middle child. You acting like one tonight though. So you got those people in that age group. Then you have those of us who figure we have something to prove. And so we, oftentimes when I interview people in my age group, we want to lead with where we went to school. We want to lead with all of the great things that that we do and how great we are. And it's never about the company. It's never about what we can do for the company. And then you have those millennials, they're idealists. They're trying to figure out how much I can be paid first. Now, you haven't proven yourself at all, but we're talking money. And so oftentimes where our company needs to go, I know that the baby boomers won't get me there because there's a technological gap in many cases that we'll deal with. And then when it comes down to our generation, sometimes because of all the debt that we have in many cases. We're driven by money and not necessarily driven by being great. And the same goes for millennials. You know, it's going to be a challenge. And I don't even know, like I said, they didn't even mention Generation Y, but there's a gap between Generation
That, well,
X.
that is why
Hmm?
millennials. That
No.
is it. But the yeah, because the millennials are those between their early 20s and late 30s, and Gen X is late 30s, 50s. So with the millennials, it is saying that you are least likely to see debt as a tool to enhance your lifestyle. Because you're definitely great already, and despite what Marcus has said, your feelings about college, I mean, about the banks. College educated millennials have secured higher paying work than their peers without college degrees. So you do see that benefit of going to college and getting the bang for your buck out of your college degree and securing those types of jobs. And I've seen millennials who, and it's generally like in some of those fields, like the engineers and the attorneys, you're able to get those degrees and go right in that workspace and command those salaries. And yes, you're the youngest person in there. And yes, there are people in there not old enough to be your mom or your dad, but old enough to be your grandmother or your grandfather. And you're making 70, 80, $85,000 a year. And the thing is, and the point I was alluding to earlier is that you will make that salary, and you will, and from what this article, not necessarily this article saying, but other articles that I've read, you will live your best life. So debt or no debt, you are going to live your best life. So you are going to go on trips, and you're going to travel, and you want to dress a certain way, and you're going to do all those things. The one thing the article brings out before I go to our comment is that you do a lot of the stuff, if you're in this category, a lot of things that you do, and you're able to do, is because the millennials who are making this type of salary to live this type of lifestyle, you're putting off having children and buying a home. Those are the two biggest things that you're putting off. Buying a home, because you're just like, nope, I'd just rather be able to go on a bond vacation every year than sink my money in a house. And I'm single, and I don't feel like cutting grass anyway. So, yeah. No, I'm saying that's here.
No, I
Go
get
ahead.
it.
What Cedric is saying.
Cedric says this new generation, and I'm assuming he's talking millennials because he's my age, does not have seasoned parents that teach them the do's and don'ts about money. The value of a dollar has no significance.
And this is exactly why
what
we're
it's saying.
doing this is yeah, but this is exactly why we're doing these things. We do it on a Sunday night, because Sunday night, we don't typically we don't sit around the kitchen table talking about money. Like, that's not the discussion that we have. It's to sit around the kitchen table and to talk about money. So we want to be able to come to you on Sunday evenings after dinner. Hopefully for some of you, it's still your time when you're still with your family, and we can all come around together and have this conversation. This is why we're doing this. We're just here sharing our experiences, and ask that you share your experiences. We said before, we're not certified financial planners or financial advisors, just individuals who want to share like their experience and help us, um, and urge you to begin to serve as change agents. Debt, for some people, debt is something that's inevitable. But when you approach debt, you gotta have a plan. Like, you gotta have a plan for approaching debt. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm just gonna get it," like you're just shooting craps. Like you're gambling and doing all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go at it like that.
Because those who provide the debt have a plan.
Oh yeah, they have a plan.
The idea is to keep you in debt.
They have a plan.
That's their whole business.
They have a plan. All the notices we get in the mail about, oh, you've been paying for so long. This is great. You can skip a payment this month. You're not really skipping a payment. They have a plan. And part of that plan is keeping you in debt longer. Oh, you've been paying your credit card bill on time every month. We want to raise your limit. That's a plan. They want to keep you in debt. Like, this is their plan. So we have to go and we have to attack the debt and make sure that we have a plan. We have to make sure that we're teaching our children. Our kids, you were upstairs today, and they were talking about on Fridays they can take $1 to school and they can buy ice cream. And they were talking about taking this dollar and buying an ice cream. And I asked them, well, what if we don't have $1 bill, but we have change? What else can you take? You know, how many quarters can you take to get that same ice cream? And Mama said, don't do it. How many quarters can you take to get that same ice cream? You know, granted, they're just in kindergarten and they didn't know, but you better believe they knew by the time it was over. And I told them, I said, okay, this week, part of our homework, we're going to figure out how many quarters it takes for us to get to $1, how many dimes, how many nickels, how many pennies for us to get to $1. And we're doing this at the kitchen table because we have to make sure we begin to empower and train another generation to be able to deal with this debt.
Cedric says many churches don't address finances.
This is true. Yeah, it is. You are right. You're absolutely right.
We address everything else,
but not the finances, and that's definitely something that we want to do. We want to encourage you. You know, if you haven't registered or haven't heard anything about the Black Wealth Summit, I'll be sure to type it in the comment bar. But make sure you check out the Black Wealth Summit. Will be in Atlanta, Georgia, the weekend of March 13th and 14th, and we'll have another summit in Spartanburg, South Carolina, the first weekend in April. You want to go online, you can register through Eventbrite. Happy that we're able to be a part of bringing such a phenomenal tool to help us learn about debt and wealth and financial literacy. So one of the biggest things that we can do, those of us who are watching this live, as we're talking about debt and debt across a generation, you can make sure that the next generation's debt load isn't as cumbersome.
Oh, man.
And one of the things that we can do with that is by leaving a legacy. And so many people think now, like when I look at, and the article speaks to like a lot of millennials who don't have children or are delaying children and home ownership because they're just pursuing other things. Please don't get caught up in this. Just because you don't have a child, just because you don't have a husband or you don't have a wife, you need to know where your money is going. You need to assign beneficiaries. You need to think about people. The people don't have to live with you. It doesn't have to be your mother or your father. It can be your church. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of African Americans don't do that.
Right.
Other people, I have a lot of Caucasian, friends who will leave monies to their churches. It's in their will. They will leave monies to their schools. This is something that you can set up now. You could just say, I want 10% of what I have, or even if it's just $1,000. Do you know how? Not that somebody's sitting around saying, "Oh, so and so is going to die and leave me $1,000." They don't even have to know. But the fact that you're thinking about another generation or you're thinking about somebody else, those are things that we can do now to help individuals with their debt load and help give people a head start. So have a plan for your debt because your debtors definitely have a plan for you. Get out as quick as possible. And the key to getting out is slow and steady wins the race. Every time. I believe slow and steady wins the race. You don't have to, just because you have a 30-year mortgage or a 30-year loan, you don't have to take 30 years to pay it off.
Right. Just
because you have a bill and it says, pay your credit card company every month, don't pay them every month. I had a Bank of America credit card for my business that it was like the worst decision I ever made to get that Bank of America credit card for that business. Because my business, I use American Express, but I got the Bank of America because with the business of some places, they just don't take American Express.
Right.
So I got this Bank of America MasterCard, and I can say I didn't like it. So I said, what am I going to do about it? Like, how am I just going to go ahead and eliminate this business debt quickly? I started paying on it every week, y'all.
There's something to be said about it.
I just said, you know what? I had a bill or I had something that I was paying. Actually, it was childcare. I had a childcare bill that I was paying every week. I was paying $110 in this particular instance for childcare for a particular thing every single week. And I said, you know what? If I could pay the $110 in childcare every week, once I stopped doing that and I didn't have to do that anymore, I took the $110 every week and I put it on this Bank of America card.
It's major.
And I'm telling you, like that, it was
major.
It was gone.
We made the decision to do that with a house.
With the house? I'm so excited.
2 weeks ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Every week?
Every week.
Wow.
every week.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be $110. It's the discipline of doing it, automating it. But if you just decide I'm just gonna pay $5 or $10 extra on a bill, or just if your monthly payment is $50 on a credit card, but if you just decide I'm just not going to eat out to lunch today or this week, and once a week just put $5 extra on it, you'll be surprised.
And make sure you stipulate that you want that to go to the principal.
Oh yeah, because mom had a situation about that too. About the student loan
Yeah,
company.
you
Oh, they
have
will
to do
not
that.
apply it. Sometimes some of the companies they will hold your money because they have a plan
Until
for
they
you
get a
being
full
in debt.
payment.
They have a plan for you being in debt. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, we've seen it happen over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you do have to. In some instances, you do have to stipulate that. Know the instances.
Yeah.
Know the instances.
Ask those questions.
And
if
make sure.
if I pay every week, how does my balance? How does this influence my balance?
Mm-hmm.
They'll tell you, and then you need to get it in writing.
Right.
Because
And-
they'll forget.
And then what I've found is though, like with a lot of credit card companies or a lot of the bills, if you're paying online,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a lot of times it's a lot easier for the money to apply versus when you're mailing a check or they're having to automatically draft it out of your account. Those are the instances generally when it doesn't work in your favor. But anyway, y'all, this has been fun. We stayed on here much longer than we intended. Blame Marcus. I love it. We're really trying to keep the lives. I'm trying to keep them to under 45 minutes or so. Found that just works better for engagement and for replay. So we thank you, though. We thank you. This is who we are every week. So just come back next week, same time, 9 o'clock, same station. And we'll have another exciting topic. If there's a topic that you want us to talk about, please send us an inbox or message, or please type it in the comment below. And I hope to see you all soon at the Wealth Summit. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Have a
Good
great
night.
night.